Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's class. For today, we'll be doing debugging techniques and error handling. And as usual, I am Emigwe Chukwudijan, CTO Remedial Health. So, we'll try as much as possible to make today's class a bit more interactive than practical to ensure that you guys at least follow into a reasonable extent. Okay. So, without wasting much time, we're going to dive into the class. So already this is class 23. For those that have been with us from the onset, I would say well done because it hasn't been easy if I'm to tell myself the truth. But you made it this far, so well done. Okay. So what would we be covering today? So for today, um, we'll be covering what is debugging. Okay. We'll also be looking at types of error, basic debugging techniques, using debugging tools, rubber duck and other creative methods, uh, introduction to error handling, try catch and custom error, then best practice and real world scenarios. Okay, so that is what we'll be covering for today. And I believe this is not the first time you guys must have been hearing of the word debugging. In fact, since when we started the whole practical session, I've always been mentioning this debugging. So, what does this debugging actually means? So we'll be doing all of that today. I hope you guys are ready for today's class. Okay, so be moving straight to the next slide. So learning objective. What are we going to learn today? So by the end of this session, participants, all of us again, will be able to define what a bug is and explain the importance of debugging. So next, identify and classify different types of programming error. Apply basic debugging techniques like logging and manual tracing. Explain the concept of error handling and why it's important. Write and use try catch block to handle exception. Follow best practice for writing clean, maintainable, and error resilient code. So the thing is, debugging is a very important skill as a programmer. It's one of the skills that differentiates you from other programmers. So the fact that you even know how to debug even makes it easier for you to even read other people's code. So when you learn to grow on this, you get to the point whereby people can just bring their codes to you and ask you, please, I'm having an error. Can you help me? You can easily go through it as far as you have a clear understanding of what they are trying to achieve. It's easy for you to debug that code. So let's dive in. What is debugging? So in my usual way, I like decoupling things, especially when it's confusing. So we have bugging, the continuous tense and all. So bug, first of all, we need to understand what is a bug. I believe in the time past, in previous classes, we already explained how the word bug came about and what bugging actually is. But in terms of computer and programming, when you hear the word bug, it simply means an error. Okay? An error, something is wrong, something is not working the way it ought to work. That is simply what bug is. Okay, so a bug is an error, flaw, or a fault in a program that causes it to behave unexpectedly. In other words, the moment you write a program and it's not acting the way it's supposed to act, maybe it's crashing, or maybe it's not giving you the right results, what you have is a bug. It can be multiple bugs, but it's a bug. It can be one error, it can be multiple errors. If there are multiple errors, you call it bugs. Okay? So now debugging is the process of finding, analyzing, and fixing errors, which is the bugs we are making reference to, okay, in your code so that your program behaves as expected. So bug is what? So your program not behaving as it ought to be. Debugging is fixing the error so that your program behaves how it should behave. Okay, so try and get the clear difference. So in simple terms, debugging is like being a detective in your own code, tracking down what went wrong and why. Okay, so I really want you guys to take this whole debugging something serious, especially for those that are clamoring for the use of AI stuff and all. Many a times, I think of recent, I decided to give this whole AI stuff like cursor a try and all. There are high chances that the code you get from them, from these AI machines and all, might be buggy. So if you don't know how to debug, you will just be stuck. You don't know if you are getting the right input. You don't know how to make the code results you have gotten from your AI and all give you the right results. So this is very important. So like I said, this class is going to be a bit interactive, if possible, more interactive than practical. So over here, I have an example here, a JavaScript code. I know we've been using TypeScript, but for now, for the examples I'll be having on this for this session will be mainly JavaScript. Like I used to tell you guys, please don't tie your learning to just a particular language. Learn to play with several other languages if you can. Okay. So I have a function here. The function I read is add. It's called add. It takes in two parameters, a, b, returns a minus b. I don't know if you guys can hear me properly. Please, if you can hear me, can you use the chat session to confirm? Because this class is not going to be like a regular class where I wait for you to ask me questions. This time around, I believe we are all going to the part whereby we cannot ask you guys questions. So can you guys hear me, please? Can you hear me? Okay, good. That is very good. So now, it's my turn to start asking questions as usual. This is the instructor that like disturbing you guys. So now, I want you guys to look at this function. I'm placing this function as an example of explaining this whole debugging process. So I want you to look at this function and tell me what is wrong. Let me ask you the question they normally asked me while I was in school. Before telling me what is wrong, I want you to tell me, will this function run? Will I have any error running this function? Yes or no? Is there anything wrong with this function, with this JavaScript function? Is there anything wrong? I'm looking. Okay. So please, can you give me in a sentence, yes, there's something wrong, or no, there's nothing wrong? So I'm certain because I see yes and no. I don't know which question you're answering. Okay. Is there anything wrong with this function? Yes. Okay. Okay. Let me rephrase it. Let me start with the first question. Will this function run? Yes. I mean, yes, there's something wrong. Okay. And but we agree that it's going to run. It's not going to give any error. Good. What is wrong with this function? Can anybody help us with that? What is wrong with this function? If you say something is wrong, what do you think is wrong with this function? I'm looking at the chat section to see if someone can help us with that. The name is wrong. Okay, that is one way to put it. The function name. Okay, I can take that. So if you are saying the function name is wrong, that is from Anozie. What do you think should be the function name? If you are saying the function is wrong. Okay, somebody is saying you put minus twice. Do I have minus twice? No, I doubt. I have just one minus there. I have just one minus, Peter. Okay, I'm still looking for answers. What do you think is wrong with this function? Somebody already said is wrong. So now, Oluchi says you are declare addition, but you are calling subtraction. Very good. So now, if you look at this function, okay, at least I am happy that many of you are getting the hang of this whole thing. I call this function add, meaning anybody calling this function is assuming that I'm going to be adding, right? And I'm taking two parameters. But what I'm returning is what? Subtraction of two numbers, a minus b. So now, the bad thing about this is it's not going to break, it's going to run. Let me say you are working in a team whereby somebody writes this function and you're supposed to call the function. You are going to call this function and you will not get any error. But the thing is, you're not going to get the right input, which is even more dangerous compared to functions that gives you error. It's even better it gives you error than you go and you decrypt. It's easier to decrypt such things. It's easier to debug it, okay? But if it's not giving you error and it's giving you a wrong input, then you need to carefully look at what you are trying to achieve. So maybe if I want to leave this as return a minus b, I would have maybe called it sub, like what the name example that I can't recall your name, complain that the naming is wrong. Maybe I would have called this function subtraction or something. Since I'm calling it add, I'm expecting that it should give me the addition of those two numbers. But that is because of if you are following a proper naming convention. If I'm to write this code, it's still going to run, just that it might be confusing. The same step you follow when you name variable names and function names. So I think we are all on the same page now. So we'll proceed to the next slide. I'll be going to the next slide now. So why debugging matters. So bugs are common. AB. So AB is the name declared for the function. No, AB is not the name. So I'm looking at the charts section. So AB is parameters passed to the function. Okay, the name of the function in that case was what add. So let's continue. Why debugging matters. So bugs are common. Even experienced developer write them. So there's no way you start coding, no matter how experienced you are, that you will not write one or two bugs. Worst case scenario, you might even end up pushing bugs to servers that people are going to consume and get wrong outputs. It's normal. So there's nothing wrong with making mistakes, just like generally in life. The focus is how do you go about making corrections of these mistakes. If you have a bug in your code, how do you debug it? What are the steps you take to what? Identify this error and fix it. So bugs are common. It's everywhere. Okay. Debugging helps improve code quality and what? Readability. Okay? Because it's by the process of debugging you can tell, okay, will this code run properly? Even if it's wrong, is there any better way I can do this code? You get that through the help of what? Debugging, through the help of analyzing your code. Okay? It's not just about fixing problem. It helps understand how codes work. So for instance now, let's say many of you happen, probably a colleague of you decided to say, please, I'm trying to write this so and so function, or please, can you help me? Before you even start to, okay, this is the error, you need to take your time to understand what the whole function that person is writing is all about. What is that person trying to achieve? In that way, you're already understanding how the code works. There is only when you understand how the code works, then you can say that, oh, there's something wrong with this code. This is where the issue is situated. Okay. So this is part of the reasons why debugging what matters. So I doubt if there's any question because I've not said anything much. So we won't waste much time. We'll be going to the next slide immediately. If there's any question, please drop it via the chats. I will be taking them immediately as the class proceeds. Okay. So types of error. I'll see if I can spend more time on this because this part is very important for everyone to understand. So over here I have syntax error, right? I have runtime error, I have logic error, and I have semantic errors. So I'll be explaining each one of them one by one to the best of my knowledge at least. So syntax error, description, code breaks language rule, program won't run. So like I said, each programming has its own rules and all. For instance, now if you are using something like Java and you forget to put a semicolon by the end, you have already break the syntax, it will not run. Or let's say you are writing an if statement in the example I have, and you did not cover your braces properly, your code will not run. You're already breaking what? The syntax. Someone is complaining about the fonts. I think this is big enough. I don't know. Probably you are watching from a phone. I don't know. Okay. So syntax error is about what? Not following the programming syntax. As in based on the language you are using. Maybe Python, maybe as far as you are breaking their syntax rule, you get an error. And this error, to fix this error is easy because in most cases, the compiler will immediately flag you. Or if you are using all these smart editors, it will already underline it, telling you that there is something wrong. You don't even need to run it. It's already telling you that there's something wrong with this line. That is syntax error. The next one is what? Runtime error. So runtime error occurs when the program is running. Meaning what? Runtime. So in this case, you are not breaking any syntax. But at the point of running it, an error will occur. That is what? Runtime error. So I have an example by the side. Like let s is equal to y divided by 0. Division by 0. Let me now throw this question to you guys. Though it's not part of this, but I really don't mind. Any number divided by 0, what do you get? What do you think you get if you do any number divided by 0? So I'm looking at the questions. While I ask my own questions, I'll also be looking at questions via the chat. So far no questions. And it's like I'm the only one asking questions. So infinity. Infinity. Some say 0, some say infinity, some say 0. I don't know who will win this. So we have 2 infinity and we have 2 zeros so far, infinity. Okay. So if you are looking at it, mathematical terms is okay. Peter is okay. You are not drawing infinity. No error. No. Okay. So let's not drag it. Okay. So any number divided by 0, mathematical wise, we get what? Infinity. But if you are doing it via programming, you should get an error, not even undefined. It's going to tell you that though we'll be practicing most of this when we have the time, it will give you an error. Okay. So on a nonce, you shouldn't be dividing anything by 0. This is just an example of what you do and an error will occur. We'll still be playing with more errors, and if possible, I will still be asking you guys questions to determine what kind of error a particular code is going to return. Like, do we find in a particular block of code? But let's see how it goes. So now we have taught syntax error. Syntax error is about what? You are breaking the rules. Maybe you are missing a comma, or maybe you are missing a spelling of a variable name, stuff like that. Syntax error. Runtime error, your code is okay, but at the point of running, it throws an error. Okay. The next thing we're touching now is what? Logical error. So the program runs, but output is wrong due to what? Flawed logic. So now this one is not like your runtime. In fact, this one is one of the most dangerous errors. You have to look out for this because it's many a times it's hard to decrypt. Why? The first and the second errors you're gonna get the error prompt on your console when you try to run it, right? But this one is not even going to give you any error. It's going to run. Except you are smart enough to look at your code properly. That is when you determine that you are not getting the right results. So for example now, if you go to the previous slide, no, let's leave that. We'll come to that later. So now the next one we have is what? Semantic error. We have, for semantic error, code. Sorry. Okay. So for semantic error, code follows syntax rule but does the wrong thing. Writing wrong variable in a loop, stuff like that. So majorly the major classes, ignoring the semantic, is more of syntax, runtime, and logical errors. The major ones you should be coming across. So with that being said, if you guys remember the first example we did, what kind of error do you think that example fall under? The examples that involve the function that adds, but instead of adding, you're getting a minus b. What kind of error is that? Is it syntax? Is it runtime? Is it logic? Let's leave it at those three. Is it syntax? Is it runtime? Is it logic? Okay, so let's see. So logic error, maybe you need to be certain. So we have logic. So I'm still thinking syntax. Okay, so let's make it more interesting. As you are giving me a reason, I don't want you to just throw logic, syntax, runtime. Can you tell me why you feel it's logic or why do you feel is syntax, or why do you feel is what runtime. I've already helped you guys by removing the semantic. Why is it logic error? So that way you can even ask yourself if you are giving the right answers or not, okay? If it's a certain kind of error, why? So I still see logic error, okay? Is anybody going to help us with that? I'm learning from you guys today. So semantic error. Peter, I said no semantic error. I've already removed semantic error. So I said syntax, runtime, or logic. Choose between those three. Okay, because they add. Even me, I don't understand the answer. Can anybody help us? What is the question? There's problem. So I said the function we just explained, the function that does the add, that adds two parameters, but instead returning the subtraction of the two parameters, which is different from the name. What kind of error is that? Okay, so logic because the code wrong, but the desired output will be wrong. So thank you, Fidel. Exactly. So that kind of error is logical because if you run it, you're going to go get it running without any error. But the fact that we are not getting the desired output, which should be A plus B, instead we are getting A minus B, that makes it a what? Logical error. There's an issue in the logic of writing that program. Okay? So let's proceed. Let's proceed. So is there any question before I proceed? Can we write down? I want to see how much we can cover today. Yeah. Okay. Can we write down? So I'm looking at the questions to see if you guys have any question. But so far, I think it's safe for me to assume that everyone is following at least. Please. Is there any question? Speak or forever. I think we hold our peace. So let's proceed. So now we'll be looking at what basic debugging techniques. Now, I've been mentioning debugging. So how do you actually debug? How do you actually debug? So we have what print and log statements. Then we have the manual code tracing. We have the comment out sessions. We have the rubber duck debugging. Then we have simplify the problem. So I'm looking at the chart and seeing manual tracing intent. Funny enough, no matter the length of code, you see these basic debugging techniques are going to help you more compared to using debugging tools out there. In fact, I can't remember the last time I relied on a debugging tool. For me, it's kind of slow. Except maybe I'm using a Chrome Dev Console or stuff like that. So let's play a bit. Give me some few minutes to be sharing my screen. I'll be sharing my screen a bit. Okay. So we just demo a bit on this stuff we just did. So you let me know when you can see my screen. I'll just go ahead and proceed. Okay, so I'm gonna create a new file on the desktop first. Let me see. I'll be opening my Visual Studio Code. Okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna create a new file. Just the basic function we just did. Function arch takes two parameter a comma b. Okay. Then so we'll be doing most of examples with this file. I'll be coming back to this file. So I'll do console.log I'll call, no, let me do it this way. Const results equals to add 5, 2. So now, similar to the same function we had already, a minus b. Let me just leave it as this, a minus b. Okay, so I'm going to save this. I'm going to save it on my desktop. That's where I want it to be. I'm going to call it just maybe tests.js, something like that. Okay, so let me confirm here. We have the file here. So I'm going to open my bash. I hope you guys still have git bash in your system. Git bash. I'm going to make it big so that everyone can see. Yeah. So cd. So first I do ls. So I'm going to my desktop. So let's see cd desktop. Yep. So I'm on my desktop now. And I think I saw previous comments about people getting scared of. And in the moment they see terminals, they are scared already. Please, you need to fight that phobia. You should be happy when you see terminals, okay? There's nothing too complex in it. There's nothing too complex in it. So somebody is asking me, sir, why var no longer common and why people prefer let over var. So in the time past, var was, I'll give you based on the basic knowledge I have. The way var work, if I'm not mistaken, you can easily declare a variable var, and even if it's not at the starting of the code, so let's is the proper conventional way compared to other programming languages. It's over complex. Okay, sorry. So let's just focus on this. So I'm already on my desktop. I'm going to do ls. I'm seeing the text that I just wrote. So I want to run this code. So I'm doing node tests.js. Okay. So I'm not getting any. Is there any output here? So let's go. Let me see. Meaning I'm not consoling my code runs quite alright, but I'm not consoling it. So look at it here. Can do the results. Another results. Okay. So let's go back and run again. Yeah, we know it's logic error. So now we're getting 3, which should be 5. So now let me go back. I'm going to change this to 0. I'm going to change this to plus, right? That way, if I'm to run this, I should get 7. So now what I'll do is this. I'm going to change that into divide. And let me say I call the function division. I change this to divide. I call this division. So there's somewhere I'm heading. I run this, I get 2.5, which is fine. Then what happens if I put 0? The 0 I asked about. So in fact, JavaScript even gives you infinity, which is weird. So it's based on language. If you have to try this on Java, you won't get anything. It's going to throw an error, division by 0. But our beautiful JavaScript is giving us infinity. I guess you guys are safe. But the thing is, it cannot even perform any mathematical function with this. It's just there for you. So far, these are the stuff we have discussed so far. So let's go back to the class. We'll be making reference to that file, especially when we want to talk on error handling, catching, try catch, stuff like that. Okay. So I'll be looking at the questions now because I'm trying as much as possible to carry everyone along since this is like the last class we'll be having. So, uh, let's see. Are there different approach used for debugging for any programmer? No. So the moment you know how to debug, it applies to all programming language. So for instance, now assuming it's a long set of code, somebody say he didn't get what I did now. So I passed zero as division. I kind of did something like 5 divided by 0, and it gave me infinity. Okay, that's what happened. Gift. So moving on, I'm asking your question, Emmanuel. So debugging is same for all programming language, which is why I keep on emphasizing that please don't focus on the language. Focus on understanding what programming is all about. Because the moment you know how to debug in JavaScript properly, you should be able to debug in Java. You should be able to debug in PHP. You just need to understand that particular language syntax. Then you know what to do. So basically, I'll start with the first one I have here using console.log or print. So print is more for print system.print is more for Java. Console.log is a basic JavaScript and all. The reason why you use many a times console.log is to confirm that you are getting the right output. So many a times you might do something, you ask yourself, I've done everything well. Why am I not getting results? Especially when you are creating maybe an API that will be consumed by the web. You write your API, you have done everything, but instead of you to see a success response, you're not even getting anything. And the code is not even probably telling you, okay, this is where it went wrong. In stuff like that, you start using stuff like print statements. You probably go and write something like console.log, I am in line 1. When you run the code, the thing shows I am in line 1. You say, oh, it passes this place. Let me try another place. So gradually you can now detect where the error is coming from. Where the error is coming from. Okay. So that is print. So this thing will be more practical when you probably encounter errors. I believe some of us are already working on our projects in a way, or like the portfolio stuff. When you encounter error, how do you do it? What are the steps you take to discover that you have an error? Calculator shows you 404. You can debug with the calculator. But nevertheless, 404 means not found. But let's proceed. So that is print statement. So we have the manual code tracing. So for instance, this manual code tracing, you read your lines of code one by one. And some programming language, depending on the error you get, you will see what we call stacks of error traces and all on your command prompt. Now you now take your line to read each line by line to understand where the error is coming from. Give me a few minutes. Let me see if I can show you one. Okay, now I can't show you. Okay, hold on, please. I'll probably do that after the break, so I won't take time. So you read each line one by one. That is manual tracing. It might be tedious, but doing this process, you're already taking your time to understand what you are trying to achieve, what the program you have written or the code you have written is all about. So please don't look down on any of these steps, okay? Commenting out sessions. So these ones involve temporarily disabling parts of code to isolate the problem. So let me say you're trying to debug one particular side and you know that some certain parts are already working. You might just comment those ones out. Okay, do you know what you are working? Wait, you comment it out. Let me focus on the parts that is not working. Stuff like that. So that is like commenting out sessions. So many of us even do this in our daily lives, but you don't know. Probably you are trying to arrange some stuff. So you feel this one is already arranged. You don't want to mix it up. You keep those ones aside. You focus on the part that is not working. You're already isolating. In programming terms, you're already commenting out several sessions that you feel are okay, so that you can focus on the part that is giving you error. So the next option, basic technique I have is what? rubber duck debugging. So ignoring the name, this one simply means explaining your code. You probably want to get someone to start explaining your code. Oh, please, this is what I did. How do you see this logic? Or probably just talking to an object. It doesn't have to be anybody. Or maybe you stand in front of a board and start writing out, trying to understand what you have done. And sometimes it does help, funny enough. So the next thing is simplifying the problem, reducing the code to the smallest version that causes the issue. So imagine you are writing a function to do something. The moment you notice that that stuff is getting too long and it will be hard to maintain, you should be looking at on ways to break it. How can you break it so that it can be easy to debug? Okay. So far I've mentioned print statements, manual code tracing, commenting out session, the rubber duck debugging, simplifying the problem. Like I said, all these things might not make sense till you encounter a proper problem. I'm making reference to computer coding problem. That's what I'm making reference to, okay? So let's move on to the next slide. Using debugging tools. Be looking at this question section quickly. So far, I'm not sure this. So did you say this is the last class? Yeah, this should be the last online class if I'm not mistaken. After this, we are going into our mentoring sessions and all. Okay. So far, I'm looking if there's any question, but I think there's nothing really much. And you just for not found. Oh, fine. No, for not found. Okay. So far, no questions. So I think it's safe to assume everyone is understanding. So okay, I see somebody explaining the various error codes. You can also research on this online. Many a times when you see 200, it's more of success. 404 not found, 401 unauthorized or unauthenticated, 500 more of internal errors. There are various error codes. It's not compulsory you cram all of them, but you should know what they do because if you are going to be writing APIs, you want to be returning the right code status. So that from the code status, those consuming your API can tell if it was a successful call or not. Okay? So there is no question. I think we're going to proceed with the class. So debugging tools. So debugging tools help you pause and inspect your code while it's running. So it's much more powerful than just using print statements. Uh, I would have loved to. Okay, we'll probably look at how we can demo this after the break, but I'm trying to make sure we cover as much as we can. Okay, so key features of debugging. We have breakpoints. So the way breakpoint works, of which I'm going to show you guys, it's you will add what we call breakpoints like stoppers that this code should stop at a certain point. At a certain point. Now, when it gets to that point, you want to inspect and see what is happening at that point. Okay, we have what we call the step through codes. Okay, we have the watch variables, we have the call stacks, conditional break. So many of all these things I've mentioned to you, it's like I'm saying remarks again. Many of all these things might not make sense to you now, but it will definitely make sense when you start doing proper coding and encountering errors because there are errors you will get that you just don't know how to tell people your problem. It's left for you to find a way to solve a problem because in most cases you're the only one that understands what you are trying to do. Okay. So examples of tools, we have the Chrome Dev tools. Like if you open your Chrome Dev, you do inspect, you see your Dev tools there. You have the VS Code Debugger, which is the one I'm going to try to show you if we have the time. We have the PyCharm, which is for Python. We have IntelliJ, which is for Java, for those using Java. Okay. So mobile doc. I just hope I'm not going too fast. So I'll be going through the questions again because I really need everyone to get the hang of this. So please ask as much questions as you can. So please questions. So sir, please no physical meeting, please for Lagos Island people. I really can give answer pertaining that though. But I believe there are hub points that people can meet, so I really can say. Okay. So someone says, how do you handle a situation when you're unable to find the source of a bug? That is a very good question. So the fact that you can't find the source of the bug is the more reason why you should debug more. So first thing first, probably if you have a scenario like that, because it's hard to say that you are having an error and you can't find the source. It might be difficult. Like I said, the ones that are mainly difficult are more of the logical ones, which they are running, but you don't know why they're not running. So for cases like that, you do a lot of console log to actually see where what the output you are getting, maybe the parameters you are entering into the function or to the endpoint is not getting to where it's supposed to get to. So for instance, there was an endpoint I was trying to write like 2 days ago. I expected this endpoint to run properly by just passing maybe an ID, something like that. But this endpoint wasn't giving me any error. Instead, it was giving me empty response. I'm like, what is happening? So I had to do proper console log to start determining, okay, are you sure the parameter I'm passing is entering? That was the first thing I thought of. So if the parameter is entering, okay, are you sure the function I wrote, I'm not making any mistake inside? Am I calling the wrong methods? So you ask yourself those basic questions. It's a gradual process. It's not something you get easily done. So first, you trace back. You start from where you made the first call. You start looking at everything line by line. First, you want to confirm that you are hitting the right function. If it's an endpoint, are you probably sending a post instead of a patch? Okay, so you start from there. If you confirm that you are hitting the right endpoint, then you start going into the endpoint. Is the route properly well done? Okay, it's not the route. Is there a middleware? Is there an authentication error? Maybe my authentication middleware is not written properly. Okay, maybe in the controller, there's something I'm not doing the right way. You start doing console log gradually. Many a times you will use a lot of console log or print statements, depending on the programming language you will be using. But that way, you gradually know where the error is coming from. Then worst case scenario, if it's not making sense, please find someone to discuss it with. In most cases, in the process of discussing it with that person, that person might never end up giving you the solution. But the fact that you are saying it and discussing, you're opening up, the solution might come to you. You might then go back and check some other places. And please, if you are debugging for, okay, we'll get to that. Let's just continue. So, rubber dog and other creative methods. So sometimes the debugging tools isn't the best debugging tool isn't software. Is your brain thinking out loud? Which is why I mentioned to you guys that many a times I've not. It's been a while since I used stuff like all these debugger tools because I believe your brain should be able to help you. Okay, so you remember the rubber dog debugging, saying it out loud, maybe to an object or anybody, just talking about it, trying to explain your logic, see if it makes sense to you. Okay, then teaching or pairing programming, maybe you are teaching, just talk about it, take a break, or you sketch or diagram the logic, stuff like that. So many a times, I keep on telling people, if you are trying to solve a problem, you don't just dash into coding and all. You need to take your time to try to understand what you're trying to achieve. Sketch. Ensure that your logic makes sense to you before you even try to explain it to another person. But you see, among all these things I've mentioned, the best for me so far, even if it might not make sense to some people, is what is taking a break. So I have a tip at the end. Like if you have been stuck for more than 15 to 20 minutes, try talking out loud or teaching the bug or teaching the bug to your dog, like the rubber dog. But for me, I like taking breaks. For me, that is what I would advise you. If you have been stuck for over 2 hours, please close that system, go and rest. Then you can come back and with a fresh mindset, then you look at it again. Then funny enough, just that little break you have done, coming back, you might not spend up to 10-15 minutes before you solve that problem. And this is me telling you from experience. It works. Funnily, it works. So don't think, no, 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 I don't want to leave. I'll continuously try this since I get it. The moment you are up to 2 hours, please just stop. You have been doing it for over 1 hour, 2 hours. Don't think extra 1 hour will make it work. Take a break. So learn to take breaks, okay? So I'll be looking at the question session again. I'm doing more of questioning today so that I ensure that I'm carrying almost everyone along. So, uh, so let's see. Do we have meeting in Ibadan? I think that's not for me. I know of breakpoints only. Yeah. So we'll see if we can explore others. So, like I said, I've said, please try to use other programming language. So, for instance, now, if you are using stuff like VS, that is Visual Studio Code, not this light one, the one that comes with the whole. You can do more of window forms and all. Visual Studio, that one is a full mechanism so that comes with debugging too. I will see if I can open it here to show you guys later. So with that one, you see it, other stuff apart from breakpoints. You can step over, you can move, stuff like that. So we'll see what we can do with that if time permits us. Okay. So yeah, say imagine it was spelling error and you have used 3 to 5 days. I don't want to start sharing my experience because it's funny. It's funny. Spelling error as well. Sometimes it's just case error. Probably where you have capital letter and small letters. Or maybe where instead of zero you put O. Weird things like that. So that is why you see this programming of a thing, you need to learn to be patient. It's not for everyone. As if you are patient, you will certainly get it. It's not that difficult. So I've been battling with an error since 3 days, still trying to resolve it gradually since 3 days. So probably we still have the chat session on the LMS. Feel free to drop code snippets there if they are difficult for you. Okay? If you try discussing with your friends and your colleagues and you are not getting headway, put it there. We'll see what we can do. Okay, we'll learn together. So, solving technique. So it's really not easy. Then probably if it's something you put and we can't solve it, probably we'll take it to prayer. Maybe it's looking spiritual. We'll probably pray about it, but I believe there's nothing you'll be dropping for that we won't be able to solve together. Okay. So, solving sleeping over your problem. Yes. You see this sleeping too, which is still part of resting. There are some problems I've solved while dreaming, which many a times I question this kind of job I'm doing that I'll be sleeping, I'm working, I'm awake, I'm working. So it's also help. It's just like those playing games and all. If you are the type that like playing adventure, probably you're stuck in a certain place. I remember playing one game. I know it's not part of this class. When I was in 100 level, I think I can't recall the name of the game. I think it's on the Mosha, something like that. I was stuck in the game while I was in 100 level. I didn't play that game again till 200 level. Then one day while I was sleeping, I was thinking about it and I got the logic of how to pass a certain place. And I woke up, the next thing I did was to carry that game and start playing. But that aside, so please learn to take breaks. So I'm not seeing any questions so far. I think it's safe for us to proceed. So let's go to the next slide. So so far we've talked about what bugs are, right? We'll talk about various types of error where we mentioned the syntax, the runtime, the logic, and the what semantic, of which I mentioned the three ones you'll be coming across in most cases is what syntax, logic, and runtime. The syntax is wrong. Runtime, the syntax is okay, but at the process of running the code, you get an error, right? Logic, your code runs fine, but you are not getting the right output. Okay. And we discuss basic debugging skills like printing, like console log, like tracking errors, like segmenting sessions if you are okay, like commenting out, stuff like that. And then simplifying your codes. Simplifying your codes, okay? We also talked on debugging tools as well. They will also emphasize that your brain is more of like your best debugging tool. So please just work with me. So now we're discussing what's error handling. So funny enough, we have already been handling errors before now. For most of us that have run the whole what's the name of that program? What's the postman call we have for quotes and all the quotes API. You must have been doing error handling there, if I'm not mistaken, where you did the whole try catch stuffs and all stuffs like that. You're already handling error. But probably you are just writing try catch. Probably people are writing try catch. Let me write try catch without understanding what it's all about. So, but you have been handling errors, but you are not even aware you're handling errors. So, well done so far. So, introduction to error handling. So, after this, I will probably pause, take questions, then we go on break. Okay. So, definition: error handling is how program responds to problems without crashing. So you see this thing, it's one of the things that will differentiate, probably if you are somebody that wants to go into a mobile app, that will differentiate your program, your app from other apps. So imagine writing your app, you create an app, you tell people I have an app that you can go there and probably a PDF reader. The moment they open the app, they have not even typed anything and the app is crashing, you're already discouraging them to use your app. So learning things like this enables you to handle errors gracefully without crashing your app. In stuff like that, you will just log the error in your backend, in your console. You will log it somewhere. You can now go, even if they are doing it is not working properly. Maybe they are trying to maybe print something, print a form, and they're clicking on the print, it's not working properly. It's better than crashing the app. Then they cannot tell you that this thing is not working. Then you can now go to your own backend, your own logs, and see the various errors that have been happening. Then you can debug than allowing the app crash. So in other words, any part of your code, be it code or be it function, you feel is going to crash, if it's going to give you an error, it's good you handle that error. Don't assume, handle it. Handle it, because many a times you will not be there when people are going to use your code. So for instance, you see this simple function I did, a plus b, right? Addition. What prevents people from passing characters? That function assumes that you are going to pass in what? Numbers, right? But people can still decide to let me pass character. You will not be there when people use your program. So you need to find a way to think beyond you and think about those that be using your program. Think like a novice, okay? Supposing this person go and type, instead of doing 5 and 10, he did a plus b. What will happen? You start putting measures to prevent such things from happening, like telling the person, no, this input is invalid. You're not allowed to input something like this. You think towards that aspect, okay? So we have talked on error handling. So importance. Why is it important? Improve user experience. So instead of crashing, user sees helpful message. So for instance, when you try to log in, like somebody mentioned 500 errors. There's an app you will open, they will tell you, you see something like internal error, you see an error occurred. You just say, something is working. That is better than the moment the person just click on it, they see the whole app just crashed. That is far better. Or the thing just take the person to one weird error page, thinking the person is a programmer, whereas the person should not even be seeing that page in the onset. Okay, stuff like that. So makes program more reliable. So you handle unexpected inputs or system issues. So remember that thing I mentioned about inputs. You will not be there when people will use your code. So imagine probably you create a calculator And the calculator you added, the program you created for calculation was one of add, subtract, division, and multiplication. And that calculator has these alphabetical keys, and somebody, instead of entering numbers, decided to do A times B. What do you think will happen to your code? That system might not even wake up again if you don't put proper error handling, catch that error properly. It might be a case that they may need to probably restart that system before that system comes back again. So you need to handle properly. So for instance, now for sites, you see that you see something like, I'm looking at the question, Internet 500 website that were launched are not properly debugged. Exactly. Your customers should not be seeing 500 error for any reason. They shouldn't be. They should see error. Yeah, you can give them error gracefully. But you see that 500 error, you should avoid it. And it most likely means something is wrong with your logic. So if it happens, in case of you going to feel it, finding a way to fix it. Okay. So the last one helps in debugging. You capture useful information when things go wrong. When things go wrong. Okay. So I'm looking at the chat and I see something Tech Plus mentioned 1,000 errors found. So if you use things like Java is a very beautiful language. I think more of the major reason I even mentioned Java more of is because of that is where I started. You might have one error and it's telling you 20 errors, and you start asking yourself, what happened? How many things have I typed? Probably it's just you missed one semicolon, stuff like that. Or if you are looking at error traces, it's telling you that your error is in line 30, whereas your code stopped at line 10. What do you do? So stuff like that will happen. All you need to do is to be patient and follow these principles I've laid down so far by what? Debugging, you console log, you look carefully each line one by one, ensure that each line is doing what they ought to do. So I will take a pause there and look at questions. This is already 7:59 by 8. We are going on break. Then we'll resume back after the break. So I'm looking at questions so far. So yeah, that's file handler 12. Error not found, only single spelling exactly. So imagine you are new to programming and you are seeing weird errors like this. You'll be discouraged, like I've not even written more than how many lines I'm seeing errors. So I'm glad almost everyone is following the class so far. So for now, I'm going to take a break here so that we can take our attendance. Then we'll return back after the break. Okay, welcome back. So we'll proceed with the class. So we stopped at introduction to error handling, right? Yeah. So we'll continue from there. Already discussed why. Already discussed on why it's important, right? So now we're looking at a simple example. I have a simple example there. Okay. So this simple example says let result equals to risky function. We're assuming risky function from the name is a function that there's possibility of what there will be an error. So if this fails, output crashes. So we'll be doing an example of this for this to make sense, but don't worry. So key idea: don't assume everything will work perfectly. Prepare your code to handle the unexpected. Okay, like I said, you will not be there when they be using your code or your app. You will not be telling them that you are not supposed to click that button. No, nah, does that make sense to you? You should click this button. They are free to use it however they want. So you should make sure that your code is robust enough to handle whichever scenario arises. Okay. So we'll be going to the next slide. So the next slide is straight up on try catch. Our beautiful way of what catching errors. The try catch. So a try catch block lets you try code that might fail and catch any errors that happen. Okay. In other words, you are preventing what crashes. So I don't know. I believe there were some try catches in the codes API. There should be. There should be because you are making some requests that might throw errors. So there should be some try catches there. So this is what it means. You literally use it for codes that you feel blocks of code or maybe just a line of code you feel will throw an error. So you use that to prevent your app from what? From crashing. So what you are catching is the throw. Yes, it's like throwing football. Because if you don't catch the error that is thrown, your app is going to crash. So now, looking at the syntax we have here, yeah, even if what I have is in JavaScript, every other language have a way you can what you can replicate it, stuff like that. So you have the try, then inside the try, I hope you guys can see the commented part, the slash code that might throw error. Let result equals to what? This key function. So we're assuming that this function might is a probability might throw error. Then we close it, then we catch. Then the catch is catching what? The error. So what to do if the error happens? So in this case, all we're doing is what? Console log. So that is all we're doing. So the next slide we'll be doing an example, but let's just first explain how try catch works. Okay. So the try block contains the code that might throw an error. Let's not forget. The part you fill with throw an error, you're putting inside the what? The try block. The catch block will only run if there's an error in the try block. So in other words, any code you put in the try block, if it doesn't return an error, it's going to skip the catch part. We'll be doing an example now. So error is an object that gives what details about what went wrong. The error in this case is this E inside the catch. The previous example I had, I spelled it as error, so you can call it any variable name you want, but in terms of how it's used conventionally, most times you see error, the full spelling of error. Sometimes you see ERR, or you can see just E. But that doesn't mean you cannot give it your own weird variable name. But it's good many times you stick to what is normally known so that when other people are using your code or they are going through your code, it's easier for them to understand. Okay. So why use it? Stops your app from crashing unexpectedly, give users helpful feedback, logs issues for developers to fix later. Yeah, so you understand all this later. But so I'll be sharing my screen now so that we can play a bit with this function. Then we just play a bit with try catch. So you see how it tends to work in real life. Okay, share screen. So um, you should be seeing my screen now. Should be seeing my screen now. So over here, this is not what I want to show you guys, but I think I did this to play with a bit with this C sharp. Like I said, learn to play with various codes and all. This is like the normal addition we did. A function that does addition, but in this case, it's not what it's C sharp. I just wanted to use this to demo a bit on how break works. If I'm to run this code, I'll just click display. I call the code error handling, and the output is 50 because I'm passing 20 and 30. I won't spend time here. I just want to show you quickly how those breakpoints works, those tools and all. But if I do something like this, let me say I create a breakpoint here. For some reasons, my breakpoint is refusing to. Right click, insert breakpoints. No, I want to just insert a temporary breakpoint. Okay, let's leave that in this location. Okay, because there's no code there. Yeah, so I'm inserting a breakpoint here. I'm going to do this debug. I don't know if you guys can see my screen properly, Sean, but I'm going to start debugging. So you look at what happens. I can't zoom in much here because this is how the editor comes up. So now it shows me all these plenty tools and diagnosis to play with, stuff like that. Wait, no sound. Hold on, please. No, you should be able to hear me. Is anyone else having difficulty hearing me? Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me, please? The sound is okay. Oh. So let's proceed. So I have already started the code and look at it. Let me stop it and start again. I'll just press this before. So you can see these tools at the top. I don't know if you guys can see where my cursor is. You can see the stop debugging. You can see the start. You can see the what is this? Show next statement. Now you see the step over. I'm talking step in, step over, step out, stuff like that. So I will just play with it. So this is what I'll do. I'm going to step in. The moment I step in, if you look at the bottom here, you see results. As of the point of this code, the result was what? 0. Oh yeah, sorry, if you're using your phone, it will be visible because yes, it's not a big screen. I can't zoom this. But I'm only using this to temporarily explain how debugging tools work. Then I can step in again. Yeah, step into. Now the stepping into is taking me into the function that I'm calling, right? Then I moved in. Now it's telling me the values of A and B that's passed. You can see the changes here, 20 and the 30. Yeah, I'm using VS Code. The VS Code I was mentioning to you guys. I can steps out. Now if you notice addition, the additional value is 50. Then I step again. Now results it was 20 before. I step again. Result is now 50. So I won't waste much time here. Just wanted to show you guys basically how this whole thing works. So let's go to our beautiful normal VS Code that we know. And like I said, I even this thing open. It's been a while I even opened this particular guy. So just for the sake of this class, just felt we have an idea of how it looks like. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen now. So what I'm going to do now is the same code we have on the slide. I'm going to put it here. So you see how the try catch works, okay? So I'm going to comment this. See, I'm using commenting because I assume that everything working here is fine. It's still a skill in debugging, right? So I'm going to do a try. Then inside the try, here I'm going to put in the code that might return an error, something like that. This is just a comment. Then I'm using JSON dot pass. By the time you start playing properly with APIs and consuming APIs, you get to understand what this thing does. So this is supposed to get a key string pair, but what I'm giving it is something that will cause error, something like this. Yeah. So if you notice, it's already telling me there's an error because I did not put catch, because I didn't put the catch part, right? So I'm going to do this catch, and I can call it E or error. It's already giving me suggestions depending on you. Then I can do this, then no more error. Then I can decide not to put anything in the catch, but that is bad practice. If you are catching, ensure you handle the error. Either you are logging it or you are doing other things that will handle that error. So in this case, we are just logging. Console.log, passing failed. So okay, I think that's that. Then E, which is the error object, the error in the catch, dots. What I want is the message. So I'm going to run this now. I'm going to open this guy. Let me clear this. Oh, you guys can't see my screen properly, so let me go back there. Let me see if I'll increase this and make this wider. Yeah, I think this is big enough if I'm not mistaken. But I can't go, okay, for the sake of this. So you should be able to see my screen now. Should be able to see my screen. Okay, so let's proceed. So I'm going to run this now. This one is already big enough, so I'll do ls. The file listing remains the same file I'll be using. So I do node test.js. So now look at this now. The error I'm getting is the message I presented. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to this code. So look at the error, passing failed, which is the message I passed. Then this e.message is all these guys down to here. That is what I got from e.message. It's telling me unexpected token H. This is not a JSON. It's not a valid. So it's complaining about this particular file, that this is not how a JSON should look like. So if you pass in a proper JSON, it should run well. But let me go back. I'll go back to this. This is what I will do. I'm going to comment all this out. Assuming I did not do any try catch and I run this guy. I'm going to run this guy without doing any try catch. You see what happens. I'm going to go here. I go up, I do this. Now look at this. In fact, it's even good we are seeing this error. So it should be another means of explaining how to track where errors are coming from. So you are saying it's telling you the node version, it's telling you undefined one, this is not a JSON, it's pointing to, you can see this arrow pointing to where it feels the error is coming from. It's giving status error, but the worst thing is it's breaking the code. It's actually breaking the code. So now let's gradually look. Let's see. So many a times, so let's say run main module, this doesn't point to where the error is coming from. If you are trying to debug error lines like this, what you should be looking at for is name of files that actually exist on your code base. In this case, I don't have any file name called loader, in as much as it's from the modules and all. But the file name I have is what? Test.js. And it's pointing what? 10, column 10. Let's go to the code. You see what I mean? So if I go to the code, you see that the error is happening in what? Line 10. Okay? The line 10 to the 10 is telling you like the number of spaces away. But you can just focus on the line so you are not confused. The very first number you are seeing. If I'm to take this, let me say I take this down and go back and run the code. Now it's at 13, right? I go back, I run the same code. Now if you run the same code, now you're seeing what? 13. So debugging is not even, it's not difficult. It's just probably the fear of the unknown. If it's the first time you are seeing something like this, you're like, hey, what have I done? First, you need to calm down. Then you start looking back. Many a times, the errors, everything you are seeing many a times from the bottom, in some cases, it might not be relating to where the actual error is coming from. So you start looking from the top, looking for the name that pertains to a file in your code base. A file in your code base, okay? Then it will actually point to the line the error is coming from in most cases, as far as it's a runtime error. So in this case now, the code we write now is more of a runtime error. There's nothing wrong with the syntax, but at the point of running it, we are getting an error because why? We are passing something that's not a valid word, JSON. So we pause here a bit and see if there are any questions before we continue. Have I successfully confused anyone with this? Is there any question? So let me see. Or do you want me to go over this again? This is the time for you to speak. I'll just wait for a few seconds. If there are no questions, I'll just go ahead and proceed with the class. Is there any question? Can we proceed then? Let me just get a yes at least. Can we proceed? Okay, I think silent. Okay, I should repeat it again. Okay, good. That is for gifts. So let's take it over again. I'm going to go to the code because I really need you guys to get this. This is just, let me even clear everything on the code base. Not like we're using anything again. This is a blank file, right? Sorry. So this is a so basically I think what you do on your own, because I don't want to spelling out everything for you, is research what this JSON pass actually do. But that is not my focus for today. My focus for today is letting you know that this stuff passes JSON object. So let me see if I can pass a proper JSON object. Let's see. So this dot any key string value. So let me see. I'll have a key. Let me see key. Anything. So I'm going to run this. So this one, I've saved this already, okay? Let me run this. Let me clear this. So this didn't give me any error. So because what I entered is a proper JSON, you should be seeing some, like when you try to use your patch and post on Postman, what you are passing in most cases is JSON objects, stuff like that. So that function is meant to pass JSON properly to more of a Java object and all. So I didn't get any error. So meaning that particular line of code, there's probability that it might do an error if you don't pass in the right structure. Okay? So I'm going to go back now to the code. This same thing that we run that did not cause any error. I'm going to go back. I'm going to comment this guy. I'll create another one. Dot pass. In this case, I'll just put maybe testing, something like this. Then I'll go back here. I got an error. I got an error now. Why? What I'm passing is not a JSON object. Okay. So on the notes, if something like this happens in your app, let me say you create an API and this whole thing happen, it's going to crash that app. There's no two ways about it. In some cases, the app will just exit and go to the home screen because it's more of an internal error. So what I was explaining is, how do you know which line is causing the error? So in most cases, you're going to see so many lines, so many names that does not pertain any file name in your project. For instance, now you can see at node, internal main one. We are not doing anything at node for now, in as much as this is needed to run the code. Okay, we go up, we are saying at node module. The only thing that is close to in the name of the file we have in our project is this one. And look at it, user Chukwude desktop test.js, which is telling us where the file is that is causing the error. So now, after the JS, the next number you are saying is telling you the line at which that error occur. In this case, this line is what? Line 2. So many times, if you are reading for error independent of the program, the moment you see the whole of this, start from the top. Then you gradually go down till you see a name that pertains to something you know is in your code base, a file that is in your code base. Then you look at the number attached to it. Because for instance, now imagine I'm looking at this mode, this guy at module.compiler, and I'm seeing line 1358. I only wrote 2 lines of code. Well, where am I going to get 1000 and something from? You get what I mean? So, but by the time you focus on the file that exists on your project, which is in this case test, you can see that this is in line 2, and this is more of the column. So if you go to your code base now, which is this, you see that this error is starting from this line. It's starting from there. Okay. So I think now to prevent something like this from crashing your app, probably you do this thing in such a way that users will be the one that will impute what you will pass. You want to surround something like this with a try catch to try and catch it, assuming they're passing something that is not of the right JSON structure. In this case, I'm saying JSON because that is what I'm doing. Your code might be probably to add 2 numbers, maybe A plus B, and they probably pass maybe like division by, they pass 0 or they pass maybe alphabets. You want to surround that thing by try catch so that if there's an error, you will just show them the error gracefully instead of crashing the app. So in this case now, if I surround this with try catch, tap this, and the error, then I console .log the error. Then the message. Then I can go back now and run the same code. So this time around, if I run it, it's not going to crash. Instead, it's just going to show me the error. So, however, you can now maybe, if it's something that is being integrated to a front end, you can return this error gracefully, letting the user know that they are not passing in the right input. Stuff like that. So take note, I'm doing error.message. If I do, let me say I just do just error. I think this might do an error because it expects a string, but let's see. Expects a singular input. So this throws an error because console expects a string input. So that is why we do e.message. So I do error.message before you end up causing more error in the process of catching another error. So this is just a basic example. Okay, so I think we have spent a lot of time on this. So is there any question apart from me repeating the whole of this? Is there any question? Or you guys are beginning to question your decision? Why did I choose this software development? Is there any other question? So all these things will get easier as you practice. Okay, so don't let it scare you. Just take your time to practice. That is all. Practice. Make mistakes. Learn how to fix those mistakes. Okay. So I'll be returning back to the slide so that we can proceed with it. Do I select this? Okay. Okay. I can't select. Okay. So while I'm doing that, I'm seeing if there's any question. So I think it's safe to assume everyone understood it. Okay, we're good. So let's proceed. So now we have just played with the try catch, how it works. We just play with the try catch, how it works. And we understand that we use try catch, so running stuff you feel will give you an error. And looking at the chat and seeing somebody saying paste your code in code, but yeah, I have no issues with you using AI engines and all, but all I will say emphasize on is this: please ensure that you understand the code the results you are getting. Don't just be like the regular person that will just any problem, they go online, they search, they copy paste without understanding. The problem is not the copying, the problem is understanding. Understanding, because there's high chances that most of the problem we are trying to solve, someone else might have encountered it. So did you try understanding that solution? So please, sir, at this back end, so you do more of this try catch relating to backend stuff and all. But if you also do what is the name of this thing? Anything Java related, JavaScript related, you will still be doing try catching it. Except you are looking at maybe HTML and CSS when you won't be needing try catch. Okay? But we are doing the whole full software stuff, so it's part of something you need. So we'll proceed. So we've done this, we're going to the next slide, which is the final block. So what we did now is what? Is try catch. We try and we catch. But there's also the one we call a final block. So how does the final block works? So the final block lets you run code no matter what happens. So remember the way the try catch works. The try catch works in a way whereby if there is no error in the try, the catch part will not work, right? But the way final works, if whether there is an error in the try or not, the final will always run. So if there are things you want to make sure that whether there's an error or not, you want to run that particular section of code, you put it to the what? To the final. And most cases, what they use final for is more of maybe closing resources. Maybe you open a connection to connect to the database, stuff like that, or Redis or whatever, and it's no longer in use. You want to close it at the end, so you don't leave that connection open. So it's more of closing resources, or dependent on you. Our job here is to show you that this thing works. You can decide to define what you want to run on your final. Just know that as far as it's in the final, whether there's an error or not, it must run. We'll probably demo that to make more sense to you guys later. So, key points. The final block always run After try if no error, after catch if an error occurs, it will always run. Okay? So it's great for cleanup tasks, maybe closing files or database connection, resetting your UI states, okay? Stopping timers. So things you want to make sure happen, whether there's an error or not, you use it in your what final block. As far as you're using a try catch, okay? So you need to when to use final? You use finally when you need to perform important final steps. You want to ensure resources are released or cleaned up. So think of final like cleaning up your kitchen. Whether the recipe succeeded or failed, you still need to what? Wash dishes. I mean, whether the food is sweet or not, you still need to return the plates. Stuff like that. You use final for most cases like that. So I'll be looking through the questions a bit to see if it's finally, I mean, don't mind me, finally. I'm just calling it finally. Finally. It's finally. Okay? It's finally. So please, the handling error. Yeah, it's more of back-end stuff in a way. But the thing is, if you are doing stuff like because nowadays it's not like the times whereby it's more of pure HTML and CSS. When you use stuff like maybe React Native or React or the Vue.js or Next.js as the case may be, you'll be writing JavaScript functions. And probably the endpoints you are calling that you feel might return error, you want to catch them. So for cases like that, you do try catch. Okay? So sir, try catch is try except in Python. So I can't think of Python how that looks like though. I can probably research. It's been a while I use Python, but I think there should be something. But for some languages like I think Java, there's automatic what we call garbage collection that you might not need to close up resources automatically. That is done. I don't know if that is how Python operates, but I think we can research on that. Okay. So I think for those asking more of if it's back-end stuff, I don't know if you guys are scared that this one is not for me. No, it is for everyone that is here in this class. Just take your time to understand it. It's not difficult. In fact, I strongly believe that the moment you get the hang of it, you might even end up using it in places that is not necessary. Something you know that will not return error, you're like, do you know what? I don't stress myself. You just round it up with try catch. Though that shouldn't be the case, but I'm telling you that the moment you get the hang of this, that might be the case. So please try to understand it. It's not difficult. Probably it's because I use the whole JSON something. It can be any error that's any stuff that you feel is going to return error. Maybe dividing a number by characters. So I cannot do that in JavaScript because JavaScript is a kind of flexible word language. Probably what I should have done is maybe run that in TypeScript that enforces type. That way you will certainly see errors, but you can play with that. You can play with that. It doesn't end here, like I said. You can still go further to understand how these things work better. So I'll go back quickly to the code base and to the to my screen to show you how finally works. So that won't waste much time there since it's something basic. I'll just quickly share my screen. Entire screen. Let's quickly do that, then we rush it over. Okay. So I'm going to add finally. So the finally does not take any, you don't need to pass any parameter. So you should be seeing my screen now. Yeah. Cool. So this is finally just an example. I'm going to go here. I'll clear the whole of this. I will run this again. So even with the error, I'm getting this. Thank you for using my app. So I'm going to go back and to the code base, I'll replace the input, the parameter inside this with this guy, of which I know this one will not give me any error, right? And I'm going to run it. And if you notice, okay, wait, let me see. Special object is not a valid JSON. Let's go back there. Let me confirm. Okay, I'm supposed to wrap it in key. Let's see. Am I consoling? Object key anything. Okay, let me cover this with string. Okay, that is right. Oh, look, the special error. Okay. Special error is this. I'm trying to, okay, what I pass is an object. So JSON, let's see. Let's go back. Let's see. I think if I stringify this guy, I'm trying to recall how this thing works. No, this is not it. So let's see. So this I know is an object. JSON pass. Let's see. Okay, I think I'm not getting the right JSON for now. But let's not dwell much on this. But the summary of this is whether you pass in something right or wrong, you are still going to get the finally part. I don't know why I'm calling it final. The finally part is going to run. So let's just take note of that. So I believe when you guys practice more on this, it's going to make more sense. So don't let this whole thing scare you. So we'll be moving over to the next slide quickly. We don't really have much time. And I want to give some time for proper questions and answers so that we get to ensure that everyone is carried along. Okay? So I'll be going to the slide now. Okay. Okay, so custom errors. Okay. So custom errors. So that is that one finally. So let's go to custom errors. So sometimes built-in error message aren't specific enough. With custom errors, you can define your own error types to describe exactly what you want. So I have an example here, a class validation error, that is tense error, stuff like that. So let me not confuse all these guys because this might be new to you. But the summary of everything is we have the generic errors. You can decide to write your own error objects and define the kind of messages you want to return whenever such errors occur. That is dependent on you. So the example I have here now is more of like me creating a validation error of which I can throw, and anytime it catch, whoever is catching it know that it's catching a what? A validation error. So why use custom errors? It makes error messages clearer, help distinguish types of error in large system, enable custom handling logic. You can handle several types of error. So the thing is, for instance, now let's say somebody is trying to log in into your system. It might be a case of probably the person is not even in that system at all, or probably it's a case of wrong password or wrong email. So depending on the kind of error that is coming in, maybe it's a case of invalid inputs or authorization error. So you can create your own unique error object dependent on you. But when you explore more on this, because when you explore more on this, you will get to understand how it works. So for instance, I have a simple use case. It's a try catch that takes in there's a username. We ensure that the username that the person is entering is not an empty string. Okay, if it's empty, you are throwing what? A new validation error, because it's a validation error. Username is what is required. Okay, then in the catch, we can check if the error we're getting is an instance of validation error and determine the kind of message to show. Or if it's an error that we don't know, we can call it unknown error, stuff like that. So you can play with all these things when you understand it. So tip, use custom errors to communicate intent in complex application. They make debugging and maintenance easier, because you don't want a case whereby all errors are the same. You want to be able to distinguish one error from another error. Like I said, this might not make sense now, but you will get the hang of this with time. You're already there, funny enough. So, best practice, because we are coming to the end of this. The rest of this time we'll be using more for questions and clarifications if there's any place we are lost. Okay? So, don't hide errors silently. So, I'll explain what this means. When I say don't hide errors silently, see the whole try catch I did. Hiding errors silently simply means what? You don't specify anything in your catch. What that simply means that if there's an error, nobody is going to know, because the thing will just catch it what silently. You want to make sure that if there's an error, it's not crashing the app, one, but you're also letting the system know that there was an error that occurred. There's an error that occurred. So don't hide the errors. So if you are using a try, make sure your catch, there's something to either handle that error or display the error in your console log. Okay? 2, be specific with errors. Okay, which is part of why we just talked on custom errors. Don't just take all errors as the same. You get what I mean? So we have, if you need to create custom errors based on the kind of errors you're expecting when people use your system, go ahead and create it. You can create the not found error, you can create the authorization error, you can create the validation error. Feel free, it's your app. So make it more specific. That way you know how to return the right messages when a certain error is hit. Okay? Inform the user when appropriate. So the thing is this, imagine probably you create a form for somebody to log in. Okay, and the person just go ahead and probably enter his email and password, and the person is clicking login. Nothing is happening. The funny thing is he does not even know if it's working, if it's loading or something. No response, no interaction. So things like that. If there's an error occurring, try to make sure you pass a message to the user, so they know that, oh, the problem is not from me. Maybe something is wrong, or maybe I'm not doing the right thing. So inform the user when necessary. Okay. Then clean up with what? Finally. Like I said, you use finally many a times to what? To close up on open resources. Maybe you are using a pusher stuff or connection to DB or network related stuff and all. Once you are done with that resources, you want to close it so that it's available for other parts of your app to use. Okay. So you use finally mainly for cleanup. That doesn't mean you cannot do other things there, but basically that is what finally should be used for. So fail gracefully. So in terms of gracefully, it's all about, yes, it fails, but it's not crashing the app. Like I said, yeah, you are trying to do something, your app is not working, but that doesn't mean that you make sure that you don't catch it properly and it ends up breaking that flow or breaking the app. So you fail what? Gracefully. Okay. Use logging tools in real projects. Like you see, we are using this test sample we did so far. We're using more of console logs and all to ensure that what we are doing, we are getting the right output. So many a times when you write code, you can do a lot of console log. Then when you are certain everything is working, you can clean up. You can remove all the console log you enter to ensure that everything is working the way it ought to work. Okay? Then keep it simple. So I will always be a preacher of keeping it simple. It's not by writing complex codes that makes you a great programmer. It's by writing things that someone can easily read and understand. And you don't want to write things whereby you are the one that wrote the code. Probably 2 months later, you come back, You don't even understand the code. Keep it simple. Don't forget to use comments when necessary. Then, as a remember there, all right, good error handling is a sign of professional quality code. It's not optional. It's not what's optional. So please work on this, practice on this. So that is the end of my lecture for me. Yeah, my class for today. I'll be taking questions from now to the next 3 minutes. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask now or forever hold your peace. This is your time for you to ask me questions. No, I'm not the our quiz and stuff. I think I will need to check back on that. So, is there any questions or you guys understand everything? Any question? Oh, they're saying thank you. So there's no question then. No, I think I'll wait for others. Is there any question? Okay, okay. No questions so far. I'm still looking out for question. Still looking at, we still have 2 minutes to get a question if there's any. Even if it's not pertaining to this class. Even if it's something we cannot answer now, we can answer it via the chat and all. We don't understand everything, but we'll make our research good one. So please, like I say, there's possibility that you will not get the hang of this as you are flowing, but please research. It's not bad that you are not moving with the pace of others. You have your own pace. Just find time to go back and research on your own. Do proper research. On learn, relearn, you will get it. So what is the difference between JavaScript and TypeScript? You are taking us back. I'm tempted to say go and look at the slide where we mentioned the difference. In fact, even from the point of running, if it's TypeScript, you need to transpile first of all before you get the JavaScript function. So no, it's not. Just go and look at slide. You'll handle those things properly. Yeah, next week is mentorship. Yeah. I was unable to do the last quiz. Is there any solution to it? So please, you can drop this. I will think if our slaters will get, we will see how we can get to you. I can be. I will take notes of your name. Yes, the hubs is open. I think it's part of the first display we had for today's class. It's open for physical learning. I think for 9 a.m. Okay, I think that is that. It was nice having this session with you. So don't stop learning. Unlearn, we learn, and I believe you can do this. Have a nice night, everyone. Thank you, and stay blessed.